Let me check if the stream is running. That's what you wanted to say.
Yes.
And we're pleased to have Nina.
Yeah, we're pleased to have Nina.
Okay, and so now we're gonna have Nina from Wizard Amigos.
Nina.
I like that.
Nina, microphone is yours. So let's see.
I've got a question.
Oh, it
What?
notified me.
What does it say on the wand? What are the letters mean?
Okay, perfect.
The letter is Journey?
Welcome,
JavaScript?
Nina.
No. On the actual...
Yeah, JavaScript.
Oh, JavaScript.
It's a JS magic
Yeah,
wand.
we gave the very
It's a
concrete
magic wand
brief
that you cannot
of what
use
we
as a
would like
hammer.
to see. We had an artist from Leeds,
There's an nail.
and we said like we would like to have some kind of sticker, artwork.
Abracadabra.
And then he said, I need a
Everything's
brief.
in there, this is my hammer.
I was like, oh shit, how do I make a brief for Wizard
Everything
Amigos?
is a nail. You have a JavaScript
That's what they
hammer.
say, yeah. Eventually everything will be implemented in JavaScript.
Okay,
It's
so
one of those things I'm fighting when I shouldn't be.
It's like what is
okay,
it?
I'll start, and then we can have more discussions. So, I'm gonna tell you a story about Wizard Amigos, how it all started. So it started in 2013 as a meetup for nomadic hacktivists. So basically, it was Alex and me being very naive, thinking like, okay, we will just start like a little meetup. I just finished Summer of Code, Rails Girls, and Alex just moved to Berlin. And, and we were thinking like, okay, let's go first and go around meetups and see if we can find some cool people. And when we were going around, it was like mainly this kind of meetups, if you know, people presenting and everybody else audience. And then at the end of the meetup, you can go and talk to the speaker. Everybody tries to do so, so everybody's like kind of trying to be around the speaker. Or people try to talk to each other, but they're very awkward. It's like, oh, who are you? What do you do? And then it's like always the same conversations, and you can never really meet anyone and like for real and build some deeper connection. So we were like, okay, how can we, in a new city, make new, deeper relationships? And we thought, like, let's start our own meetup. How would we like to design our meetup? We want to have like a big table and everybody's sitting around and we are basically just co-working and talking, and nobody is forced to have a talk. Nobody needs to talk. You can just be silent there. So also those people who are maybe shy can still be around. And then when they have something to say, they can say because they're already there. So nobody is in charge. And you can just basically speak when you want, or if you don't want to, you just don't have to. So we started running these meetups in Berlin, and I checked now our statistics. We had like 889 events. That's like brutal. We were organizing them twice a week from 2013 to 2017, us alone. And after that, we started traveling. So we went to Taipei for a couple of months and handed over our meetup to another guy who was then running it for a year or so, but then he also became a nomad. So, and Corona happened, and then like, yeah, just kind of didn't continue in the physical form anymore. But in Taipei, we had like a really nice community. We were, I don't know, we were there for 2 months, and we were also organizing these events a couple of times a week. And after we left, people were excited about this idea of having like a space, safe space where you could meet with like-minded people and just hack together, help each other, learn, connect. Maybe you get some job opportunities through that, start a new project or so on. And they continued with the meetup, and they were running it for like 2 to 3 years in Taipei. And then some people from Lagos contacted us, and they were like, oh, we saw what you're doing, and can we start our meetup in Nigeria? So then they also started meeting up there in Lagos. And there was like even, by coincidence, one guy from Berlin going to Lagos just traveling, and he was like, "Oh, I just checked on meetup.com and I saw Wizard Amigos meetup in Lagos, and I just want to ask you, is this a real thing? Can I join?" And then they actually went there and met the people from Lagos. And also a couple of friends from Berlin, they went traveling and visited Wizards in Taipei. And there was also like a little group in Trbovlje in Slovenia for a little bit. And then we started figuring out like, okay, we have all these kind of local meetups, but how can we make something kind of connecting all of these communities together? So we decided to make like a first code camp, first in Taipei, and they organized like 40 people, and we were using the university facilities and like really making something like now, but we didn't live together, so it was a little bit more professional, or like how to say, yeah, we just came there, did the talks, presented, and then went home, or just went to eat something together. But it was very nice. It lasted for a month. Did we have it every day? I don't remember anymore. I think it was even every day. For a couple of hours. So it's like really intense. Then we repeated this in Berlin, but it was just for a week. And then in Chiang Mai in 2019, it was like after one bigger conference that happened in Japan and later in Taipei. And then we all moved to Chiang Mai, and we're also using up the kind of like in Thailand, people meet in malls. So on the top of the Maya Mall in Chiang Mai, there is like a community space where you can kind of buy coffee and use the internet for free. And then we were hanging out there and making some talks and just hanging out. And then Wales, 2022. This was like a level up, because we said like, okay, this time we want to actually live together and make it even more immersive experience. So this is like our meetup page. We don't use it that much anymore, but I don't know how to migrate all of this stuff, because we have 2,000 plus members. We have tons of photos, like all the proof that all of this happened is practically here. And they're charging around $130 per year. So it hurts every year when they charge. So I hope that this is the last year and that we can finally move away from Meetup, because we just don't need it anymore. But in the past it was very important, because we were announcing all of our meetups, especially in Berlin, and then all the nomads and people who were just like locals, they checked what is going on, and this is how they found us, and they could join. But currently we kind of build more online communities. So what were we doing together? We were usually learning new skills, working on projects together, contributing to open source, helping members find jobs or open their own companies. So for us, it was somehow, like when we started, it was a wish that we would find like-minded people with whom we could kind of everybody builds their own project, and then we collaborate somehow together, so that nobody has to be an employee. But if you are having your own company, it's also very hard to find clients. But if everybody's self-employed, then we can form some sort of a supply chain. And we, I don't know, work on projects together when we need to join forces. Or we can even be a supplier for each other if somebody's producing something that the other one needs. But yeah. People are different. Some people are, like we also had a lot of refugees from Syria in 2015 coming to Berlin. And we built refugeeswork.com app, which was helping professional refugees find like some volunteering gigs so that they can connect to the local community. And then a lot of the people from this refugeeswork.com app came to our meetup, to Wizard Amigos meetup, and we started teaching them programming because when you come from another country as a refugee, you have this label, and then you're pushed through all these funnels, you know, like learn the language, then apply there, then go through this. And we were like, oh, what if these people decide to leave this country later, or they just want to go back or move to another country? Now learning the language and going through all of this is kind of useful, but if you learn a digital skill, this is something that is really worth investing in, and you can always take it with you. And also this profession somehow doesn't really discriminate as much as some other professions do. So there is a lack of programmers. So if they learn this skill, there's a way, way higher chance that they will be able to integrate what people want them to do, but by being able to sustain themselves and earn their own money. So yeah, this was also part of the Wizard Amigos journey. And there we also learned that, like, yes, some people are maybe not in the position to now think about their own projects and companies because they now need some steady job and they need to support their parents back in Syria or something. So we then figured out, okay, this is our ultimate goal, that we connect to that kind of people who want to be self-employed, but there should also be space for those who don't have this need or are not in this stage of life at the moment. So what did we build in this time for our learners or with our learners? We did a lot of workshops, online workshops. We built an e-learning app. We offer one-on-one guidance and support. This is what we still do, like on chat. If somebody reaches out, it's like literally tailored support. And we have a skill tree with links to learning resources that we constantly maintain. And like we do now, we also record talks. So this is something that is not maybe a tutorial, but it's a broader, I don't know, what would that be?
Inspiration.
Yeah, inspiration maybe for technology and the lifestyle that we are at least passionate about. So workshops, for example, this is the latest workshop I was working on for the past 2 or 3 months. So building basically live coding and showing from scratch how to build web components. So it's for complete beginners or for somebody who already knows how to do code. You can just literally follow along and build your own web component and then learn also how to do the communication between these components. And we also need people who would help us build these web components for our .dot project. So it's even in one way onboarding process for our company. So it's a win-win, because this is also another thing that we would like to see, that like I transitioned into coding when I was 32, and it was hard because I had a job, or like I had a project that I was working on and I was earning, but then when I transitioned, that meant that I had to drop all this and focus on learning. So how do I earn while I learn? And luckily I got a scholarship by Rails Girls. This literally changed my life because Berlin is luckily cheap and it was enough to sustain me for half a year. But then I realized, and Alex also went to similar transition, but he had grandma to help him to stay in her cellar and keep low while learning. But then we share this passion for helping learners to somehow earn while they learn. So we promise that when we have our project and we can offer some payments, we will basically teach and guide people to go through the process of learning and help them earn while they learn. So this is about the workshops. Then the e-learning app, we were, through a friend, invited to build this e-learning app for city of Šabac in Serbia. They had like a really cool mayor who was promoting programming. So they said like, okay, the city will invest into educating people, unemployed or students, how to learn programming. So we built this app, and I was recording like 100 lessons, and then they used my screencast and did a little bit of a intro and outro and translated everything into Serbian. So it was really big success. I think they said that they had around 1,000 people going through this. Sorry, Alex wants to.
I think we had like even 400 on the live chat, and also our condition was that all this stays open source.
Yes.
So we could then reuse it later.
Yeah, so this is now English version that we then kind of did with original videos for our learners. The whole thing was basically going through a code camp game. I don't know if you heard about it. It's a Dungeons and Dragons type of game in the browser where you move through the labyrinths and basically use JavaScript to do so. So you have to say like object, what was it, like hero dot move left, and that's a function call, and then you can pass in like 2, and that means that you do 2 steps and stuff like that. So I went and I literally played the whole game and recorded myself and explained how things are going, and then we built this into an app with a support chat and so on. So this was fun, and it even paid something, because we otherwise all of this we do completely for free and without any payment. So it's really charity or like free time thing. Then we have a skill tree. Skill tree is basically a README on GitHub with, I don't know, 100+ resources. I could just do a little screenshot, but you can just scroll down and you have like all sorts of links to popular tutorials or like little documentation from Mozilla Developer Network and all of these resources. So I mentioned already before this one-on-one chat support and guidance and motivation for learners. Basically, we get people who have different level of knowledge. Maybe they learned some other language before and now they want to transition to JavaScript. Some of the people are like complete beginners. They studied economics or something and they just want to learn coding. Some are kids. We also did a lot of workshops with kids. So we figure out there is hard to have an app that fits all. So that's why we built this community now on Discord, but we started on Gitter, and I think we will soon transition to something peer-to-peer when things are stable. And there we literally guide everyone who has a problem, like concrete problem with, I don't know, following our workshop, or just has question like, okay, I'm here, I want to transition, what do I do, what do you recommend? And it's not just us, also other people can, of course, other members, but if nobody else, then it's definitely Alex and me offering this support. And it's very rewarding because then, like, I remember when we came to Taiwan 2 years later, and then on 2 years after our first workshops, and then like one girl joined the meetup that we announced, like, hey, this is another get-together. And she came and she said, like, hey, do you remember me? I'm this Lisa who was, studying languages and started learning with you. I'm now like a real programmer. I work in a company, I program, I do this for a living, and it really, you helped me transition.
Now we just have to figure out how do we get her to be self-employed instead.
Yeah, this is not, the first step was accomplished. And also like some of the refugees that I mentioned before are now like senior programmers because it's been 7 years since they arrived. So it's really, really awesome to see. I see myself how it changed my life since I transitioned into programming, and then I also see these other people that we helped, and I also got help basically by Rails girls before. So it's not that like, oh, I just started myself. I had this support, and it felt right to offer this support back. And it's really awesome to see that it works, this train. So yeah, talks. You were part of these talks. So these topics that we are passionate about are web, peer-to-peer, blockchains, open source business models, design UX, cooperatives, alternative living. So basically how to create like holistically the world where there's more equality, where there's more opportunities for everyone, no matter what our background is, or language, or nationality. And we think that with kind of this kind of tooling and open source and transparency, we can hopefully achieve that, or at least get closer. So I also mentioned before that we are basically self-funded, so we just do this voluntarily for free. But for the past 4 months, this is the first time ever we got some kind of a monthly UBI type of grant by Shukunin Network, which helps us work on this. What is it? Do I have it here? No, maybe later.
I just heard it's maybe called a UBC because it's a universal basic crypto.
Universal basic crypto, not UBI. Yeah. Yeah, it helps us work on the thing that I will share now. So what is next? What do we want to do? We want to create more events, because getting people together from different backgrounds is super powerful, because you get like many different perspectives and you get inspired to also in your tech be more inclusive, because otherwise you just build in your bubble and you cannot even understand for whom you're building. We are working on the wireframes for the skill tree. We don't want to have this skill tree as just like a list of links that we maintain, but we would like to see more projects. Projects have documentation, and these documentations are on their web pages. But how does all this relate to each other? So if I want to learn JavaScript and then I want to learn peer-to-peer, how do I get there? So we want to build like some kind of a skill tree or curriculum of all these resources, but not maintained by us, but as some sort of a web ring where people maintain their own workshops, but they can define somehow what do they recommend as a prerequisite, and maybe what can be something that they recommend to learn next if they want to go deeper. And if we all use this tooling that we are working on, then this should be easy. It's not a lock-in, it's not the platform that you have to use, it's literally a tool. So, yeah, Alex wants to.
Kind of a static page generator?
Yes, that's the best description.
But not for anything, but for an e-learning page, maybe.
And the last thing, when we have this skill tree, this curriculum, this thing working, and it's interconnected, we would also like that projects add some tasks, some bounties, grants, job offers that they have that is related to their project and their technology, so that then all these learners can immediately see the financial reward, or let's say they have this security that they know that if they will learn, they can earn while they learn already, and they can see also for which field there is like the most offers, so that they can more easily decide what to learn. Because I would like to see this skill tree to have multiple directions. So as a learner, you can just like kind of go through almost as a graph or something and see what are the options, and then decide based on the opportunities that are there. If you want to be self-employed, you're searching maybe for some grants for the projects. If you want to have a job, you check for the jobs. If you want to just do some bounty tasks because you want to be a freelancer or something, you can check where the most opportunities for that kind of things. So that's it. that's kind of like a little vision,
Can I ask
an overview, and yeah, now we can talk and
Right.
yeah.
Also, one thing is like when somebody would do such a bounty on a workshop, then I mean it depends on the custom settings, like a tiny fraction, maybe a percent, or maybe like 10%. We have no idea what is a good number. Would go to the maintainer or the maintainers of the workshop, and also then a fraction of that again would go to the prerequisite workshops, which might be maintained by different people. So therefore, somebody who does just like teaches like the alphabet or whatever, something basic. There's maybe not so many bounties, but they might be in the dependency tree of workshops that lead towards something more complex, where there are actually tasks with bounties. And if there's many, then maybe that triggers even back to like the primary school teacher type that covers the fundamentals. I mean,
Does it
so
make
far in
sense?
theory.
It's kind of like if I'm teaching peer-to-peer, this knowledge is based on basics of JavaScript, basics of streams, basic of no. So all of these
Yeah.
need to be learned before.
Yes,
So if you get paid under this topic,
Peer-to-peer,
then
it
you
trickles down to the basic workshops and
right, yeah. So you've got a path because you have a pathway.
maybe even HTML, but there might be not like a direct task for, oh, here's a task for HTML, there's a bounty, but only for the more advanced stuff, because this is kind of prerequisite. This can still pay you back. Yeah, and we would maybe use blockchains or smart contracts or something like that to add that.
Any thoughts, questions, inspiration from this?
So yeah, a few actually. Thank you. Yeah. So it sounds like a personal question. You know, it's quite a direct question. Like, how have you been putting food on the table? Because it seems like an awful lot of work you've been doing for free, for no income. So have you also been earning money?
Yeah.
along the way?
Yeah, I mean, this is the awesome thing that
This is the bigger
once
problem.
no, but like when you organize that kind of activities, you also meet a lot of people. So, for example, one of the people who was coming to the meetups in Berlin was basically how do you say it, even a creator of Solidity language, which is the main
No,
programming
no.
language of.
He was
You need to take the microphone.
yeah.
But I mean, despite the detail, what
Yeah. It's like he, for example, invited us to join the project that he was working on, and we were working for like 3 years with them.
Okay.
So it's basically a lot of people also through Wizard Amigos got their gigs and jobs and started projects. So it's also like a sort of a networking. You are meeting like-minded people. Like we are also nomads. That's why this nomad picture, basically a person that is gender neutral. So the artist decided that it's maybe a cat, a creature, whatever. A little bit of an anarchist traveling around with JavaScript.
An anarchist cat. He himself, who knows, or her.
Yeah.
Or they.
With a
them.
backpack, with doing some traveling stuff. No, but like we met also another digital nomad from US who was like, "Oh, guys, it's awesome! Every time I come to Berlin, I will just come to Wizard Amigos." And when we were in the US, he was like, "I'm around somewhere. My house is free, so if you want, you can just stay there for a month."
Like couch surfing, almost.
But we got the whole house, not just the couch.
That's true. But that's rare.
I mean, but that, it opens like new friendships, new opportunities.
I think.
So yes, we work on that dot, and that dot is grant funded, and it's basically paying our bills. So we can do this on the side, and that's why in between, when we had a little bit of a harder time with earning money, we couldn't do that much. So Wizard Amigos has also ups and downs. It's not like that we are pumping event after event. It also has a bit of quiet periods in between when there is no earnings or less earnings.
Yeah, hopefully we can improve them in the future.
Those are questions.
Well, you carry on. I'm okay, just listening.
Okay, thanks for that. I understand that. That's great. So it's kind of like not a karma thing, but in a way, putting the effort in to create community for people, and then you have the community you created, and you sort of take advantage of that.
Yeah,
Yes.
and it's also like we kind of like, you can go and do the job to earn the money and then to buy a house or whatever, but you can also do the job that is trying to get you to the future that you want to see. So you work for a certain company or whatever that you believe in because it shares the values. So if I want a certain type of world, then I want to have that kind of people around me. So if I empower people and help them learn and help them become independent and work on their project and build more open source, I hope that we will faster get to that vision. But yeah, it's, I don't know, it's giving back. It's similar to why were you doing the your Haction Lab things, it's like, it's hard to say why, but it's kind of, it feels right.
I also think that we basically, when we went to the US and we had this nomad that was visiting us, and he then offered us for 2 weeks the house, which was kind of pretty convenient. And also that we basically got this one PhD cryptographer who once came to our meetup and learned about basically blockchains and that kind of stuff, and then figured out, wait, that's actually kind of related to what I studied. Maybe I should rather try to find a work in that direction. And then later, actually, he came back and offered us a job. That's more like side effects, but it's not like meant. I mean, we have like, this is why the Wizard Amigos has like technically a business model, and also the .dot project that we work on has a business model, and we hope that, of course, that would at some point pay off. But it's nice that there's in between some side effects that are not planned, but that help bridge the time until we hopefully get there.
Yeah, thanks. And thinking about the workshops then, and so I work in software engineering, and do you also teach the supporting skills such as design patterns and principles and pair programming, test-driven development, and those kind of supporting roles?
I can answer, but like, we personally don't teach this or haven't taught this so far, but I mean, the whole idea is that the Wizard Amigos is not a hub where we teach everything.
No.
We want to show on the example of our stack and our technology how these workshops could work, and we're testing out and getting feedback from users if this is the right approach. Do they learn this way? What do they want? What is the best? So far, this kind of like live coding, showing them from A to Z how to build something, has been the best, because just giving them a lot of theory to read is like often a beginner can be completely paralyzed, because what do I do with this now? But following along something and build it gives you the best starting thing for new technology. But yeah, okay.
No, I just okay. Then no, I just was thinking, because tomorrow we will have another talk where actually it will be a talk about how we work, like when we build software with other people, and I think at the moment we just have like, I think maybe 2.5 or 3 contractors that we work with, but there was like a time in between, I think, when we had like 7 at one point, like in parallel. And so when we work, then we teach them also how we work, but like tomorrow, like one person that we were working with now for, actually he only recently he joined, he will present how we work, and then we will also turn that into workshops. So technically somehow we're trying to teach the way we work, open source, with people from all over the world across time zones, in an asynchronous kind of way, and we have lots of tools that we use and techniques, so that's kind of part of what we plan.
But I imagine that I just imagine, at least, why you were asking this is like, can any of these resources be useful for your organization, maybe, or?
Actually, it's more than that. There's a lot of there's a lot of programmers out there.
Mm-hmm.
But there's not so many good programmers. And when you're recruiting, because I often recruit programmers,
Yeah.
I actually want people that are software engineers, not programmers. and so therefore it's that wider context really. And I suppose I was going to ask you, like, how do we make sure that that's, like, we don't just teach people coding, but we teach people good coding.
One thing is good coding, and one thing is something that is absolutely fitting your organization, your stack. And I have a feeling that organizations, you know, they have the onboarding programs, but they're usually internal onboarding programs. So you do things in a certain way in your organization. So why not making this a workshop, a public workshop that is open to all people who are using Wizard Amigos learning tutorials?
I guess what I'm talking about is general practices, programming and coding and software engineering practices, as opposed to tech stacks. Tech stacks are tech stacks.
Yeah.
And they will be different depending on the project or the company or something like that.
Yeah.
I was just thinking about that sort of wider.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's true, but like,
then you have it. Yeah, we no, I also just want to. I don't know if you see me because you.
I do, but
okay.
I ignore it so that I can focus on answer.
All right. So I think what we try to do is optimize for not so much like companies, but more like an open network. I mean, I don't know to say permissionless, but like usually like I can't even see the work that is happening behind companies' doors, and everything is maybe has an NDA or it can't be public. So therefore, also not for somebody to be long time as an employee, but like basically kind of drop in, do a little bit of work, and then go somewhere else again. And then if we optimize for that, all the techniques, how we work, they look a little bit different. And even though we're kind of focusing on one stack to get people who are, I mean, it's the easiest to quickly be able to work together. There's lots of ways how people can use tooling or programming styles even in JavaScript. I mean, there's not like the best practice way, like everybody does it somehow different. So we're trying to teach certain ways. Like I think once we said, of course, to squeeze in the hyper word again, it's a hyper modular web development, which means it's modular, but it's also hyper in the sense that it's not all built by us. It's like almost like a supply network. So everybody builds modular, but we're using it from each other. And they're always super tiny, maybe a little bit like the Unix philosophy, do one thing well and stuff. And then we just kind of plug things together in that way. And this requires some sort of teaching how to build in this way, regardless of whether it's now JavaScript or something else. Yeah. Because you can also build it monolithic. And
but how do you, can you answer Mike's question? How do you make sure that you get high quality engineers who are very...
So that's the, of course it's hard, but the thing is at the moment, or let's say the goal is, that's why we built this skill tree. So we would basically, people learn the stuff and then maybe they do a little bounty, and then because that's maybe then also paid, there's like a little bit of a receipt maybe on the blockchain or somewhere. So I can, so the task that somebody does next to a workshop would be almost like that got paid, is almost like a certificate or like some proof of that they obviously went through this and learned this and were able to do some task that was meant for that workshop. And then do the next things, then we can slowly, hopefully select people who, according to the tasks that he did in the past, they already learned through this kind of stuff, so they should know all that stuff. And if I agree with that stuff, then some person who went through this and did some tasks already, they should approximately have those skills. So that's the idea. Will it work? We'll see.
I think you could have a good conversation. What's the difference between a developer and an engineer?
Or a coder and an engineer or a scripter.
Yeah.
There's a difference. Wow.
But I mean, that's a whole different debate. I was just sort of asking about it.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I'm not really necessarily, I mean, I work for a corporate at the moment, but that's not what I am thinking of. The world is, you know, the internet is littered with bad code. And
I agree with that.
and really an awful stuff out there, really. You know, because it's one of those, because we've got an easy entry point into this, we don't necessarily therefore have the, you know, like to be a lawyer or something, you have to go through a certain load of things. To be a veterinary surgeon, you do, but to be a civil engineer, you have to go through all these things. To be a software engineer, you can go to a workshop and then start being paid to write code.
it's true. I just know from a couple of examples from Berlin startup scene that it's rare that the founders are programmers. So this is the first problem, that they usually cannot even select the stack, or they just ask somebody and tells them, oh, it has to be Ruby on Rails, or oh, it has to be React or something. And then the next thing is quickly. Build it. We need to show to investors or to anyone, just like patch it together. And they don't even understand that basically writing good code takes time, and taking more time will cost you less in the long run. But they don't have this experience, so I kind of think that it's not, I mean, it's probably also fault of developers, but I personally think that it's more of a fault of the founders than developers, because I imagine if you give a developer time to build stuff, and even if they don't know, to learn, wouldn't they want to make like a nice maintainable code? I mean,
you'd think, yeah. I mean, it seems to be like, so basically, if you're out there and you haven't got any technical skills and you're thinking of starting a new web startup, don't, please.
if you're not a programmer, yourself.
If you're not a programmer yourself, please don't do it.
Yeah.
You don't need any more of that. No, I mean,
and if you're a VC, please stop pushing people to show results.
VCs, chill out, and remember that we don't necessarily have to build software to prove points as well.
Yes.
So one last thing I had to ask you was then, so going back to the meetups, are they still actually happening? Those sort of things. Is anyone out there in the network in Nigeria anywhere running meetups?
I think COVID killed.
Yeah.
COVID killed
Yeah.
meetups.
I mean,
I've had the same experience.
The last meetups were going on in Taipei very regularly. In Berlin, like I said, we had the problem that the person who was taking it over from us was inspired by our lifestyle, and then he started traveling. And it's cool. I'm super happy because he's living in Korea, and like he's basically a 25-year-old super, or 23-year-old super talented programmer. But yeah, it was hard that now he will find some successor, and we were not living there anymore. And then we also started thinking that, like, I mean, it's nice to have these local groups, but it's also important that we have something online, and then we, like the same maybe as musicians, you can do stuff online and distribute your music for free, but then you make some kind of events where people can come together and like more deeply engage with your content. But in our case, it's still free, but in this sense.
I also think one thing was a problem, at least in a problem, like something that I noticed, we had like this other person that became a nomad, and also with us when we were running it, it was very, like the people that joined the meetup were very like from diverse backgrounds, and they were like all ages, genders, like whatever backgrounds, like everything was super mixed. But then we had also one person who was like a local who showed up, and he was running it for some time. And then over the weeks and weeks, it turned all into just local Germans showing up and nobody else anymore. So this is also something that we would like to avoid, but it's kind of tough.
Yeah, this is also true. We figure out like it's not just that you are a key holder and open the door and get people in. You have to facilitate the whole thing. You have to create safe space for everyone. And when we were there, we had like a 66-year-old, what was his name? Hubi, to transgender Alexandra, to, like young 19-year-old German professional nerds, to some weird nomads, to us. So it was really nice and diverse. And this is hard, if you're, it depends on the person.
At one time, it turned into a little bit of a monoculture for some time.
Because Germans were like, this is how they explained it to us, these guys that were running then. Oh, we're just speaking German when nobody's around. But then some new person comes, and they just sometimes continue speaking German, and then this new person is like, I don't understand them, I will not say anything, I kind of don't feel very welcome. But it's nothing bad. It's just like you have to really think about these things to make it work.
And I suppose finally, like, so from a person that's met you and on the not outside of this, I would say, and just hearing about your project. How do new people engage with you? Like, do we what?
You mean people like
Wizard
you
Amigos,
who?
I mean,
People like
can we
you
get
who joined?
involved? Can we? Do we start Wizard Amigos groups in different cities? How does it work?
Yeah, this is
What's
this.
the
This is
engagement?
how we had it in
Yeah,
the past.
I mean, this was in the past. This was the idea. Like, yeah, let's make everyone start a local community group. But now we're thinking, let everyone share their knowledge. Let us all share this knowledge together, and let's build this skill tree or connection. And let's add, like, if we are in the position that we have some tasks that can be done, let's put them there. There is like a lot of people who, like this I started thinking when I engaged with refugees. So many young boys then, because they were running away from having to go to the army, that's why mainly men, they were, I lost the throat. They said all the families, everybody was kind of putting all their savings together so that they go into this promised land, Germany, and there they will be successful, and then they will be able to return this back. And that was a lot of a pressure on these young people. And when we started traveling and seeing people from different countries in Thailand, Serbia, Taiwan, Slovenia, I don't know, everywhere, you see people who have this idea of this developed Western world where everything will be just perfect. I just have to get there. But our premise was like, no, let's open the opportunities for them where they are. Like, they can stay in their homes, they can be happy. We just need to reach out and allow them to enter our worlds and trust them to do the jobs with us, because if we are always selecting the same cultural fit, we will always select the same type of people. So, you know, and they will be stuck there, and they will again dream about this Western world where everything is beautiful, and we'll just create endless loop of dissatisfaction for everyone. So, yeah.
I think also we had until recently like a channel per real meetup, like chapter, like in Taiwan, Lagos, and so on, where they could talk. And then and we had like once a year the meeting, the code camp, where we would invite everyone. And then when pandemic happened, we had to stop that for some time, and also all these chapters died. And now we basically turned those, made the channel list, changed it a little bit on Discord for the code camps. We have them, but now focusing much more on the workshops. And we have like a lot of people that already said that they would create lessons for their projects. Like some of them were actually speakers, and then they plan to, because they sometimes, we have like another project that we are part of. It's called .dot ecosystem, which is like all kinds of companies and projects that are building on top of Hyper. And they say they have a hard time finding employees, or in general people that work with them, contractors that know the stack. So they need to basically teach their technology in order for others to even be able to do something with them. And so if we can leverage that to create workshops, and then because they're already working in open source and they are already up for basically just announcing there's a task, we have some budget for it, let's work on it, and maybe this is how we can kickstart this network. And the more people create learning materials, the better. And technically they can also earn, like if it's a workshop that gets a lot of bounty tasks, then there's also the maintainers of the workshop itself can technically earn. But yeah, it's harder for, it depends on what situation. Like for those projects that we have, they are open source already, they anyway work already in that way. So they will be.
How can people engage if you sum up?
Yeah, I mean, technically the business model is you make a workshop, people start learning it, but because you're maintaining it, in the future when people put like tasks that require this knowledge next to the workshop, then the maintainer can earn. But it's definitely some.
So share your knowledge. That's the core idea.
Share your knowledge is the overall.
Yes, you already did. I mean, through the talks.
Yeah, I feel like, yeah.
But we can do even more structured and like really hands-down learnings. And then you can also channel people into the organization that you need through creating exactly the resources that you need.
I wonder if there is any way that a company would be up for creating learning resources that are open and then actually having some subset of tasks that could be done like by external contractors in like a more open way. That would be pretty cool, but I imagine that most companies are not so open to that idea. They think more in terms of employment. But I don't know. It would be cool though.
Interesting thought. Thank you anyway. I really enjoyed the talk.
Thank
Thank you.
you. Any other thoughts anywhere? No? Cool. Okay.